Shalom Aleichem, everybody. We have the ability to crown Hashem as King in our own personal lives, each and every one of us individually, in a way that will allow us to fully improve our service of the Creator, and we'll be able to cause the Creator a lot of joy, and we'll be able to tap into that joy in our own individual lives, in our own experience. How do we do that? There's a method that the Rebbe Rashav gives us. He explains that in Hebrew the word is bittul, in Lashon HaKodesh. We have to bittul ourselves to Hashem, bittul our own mitzvahs to Hashem. We have to nullify, surrender ourselves to Hashem. It's a beautiful word, beautiful terms, but how do we actually do this? So the Rebbe Rashab explains how normally, we have our heart, which is represents our emotions. We have the lower part of our consciousness, that's the emotional part of us that reacts emotionally. It's more involved with ourself. It's more egotistical, so to speak. It can be used for good reasons, but it has a more... Normally, emotions deal with oneself, and intellect deals with objective reality. So when you're dealing with the intellect, there's no you. There's straight facts, straight godliness. But when it comes to emotion, there's a you experience the godly reality. So the Rebbe Shab explains how through sechel, through intellect, we could nullify our emotions. We can control our emotions. We can direct our emotions with our intellect. And through that, the intellect can weaken the emotions, weaken the animal soul, and then use them as a tool to add spice, so to speak, to the intellect, to bring emotion to the intellect, to make it more internalized within us, because we are very strongly connected to our emotions. So when we understand an idea, that's great, but when we're able to ignite our emotions from that idea, it's able to we're able to tap into our emotions and emotionally appreciate these intellectual godly ideas, then it becomes more internalized within the body, because the body is more involved with the emotions. So when a person can get into, can emotionally be involved in a godly idea, then they can appreciate the concept better, and it becomes much more one with them. Whereas if they just intellectually appreciate it, it may not stick. The Rebbe Shab says that's beautiful, but there's a way to reach a much higher level of bittul, a much higher level of surrendering oneself before Hashem. And this is the idea of the crown, the keter. We all have the faculty of keter within us. And that is represented by our will, our desire. And desire, when you really want something, it is above intellect. We've explained this on many occasions. That a parent loves their child, that their connection a parent has to the child is completely beyond intellect. It's not a logical relationship. It's a level that far transcends the level of logic. And this is a level of will. The father wants to love the child. It's who he is to love the child. It's not something that he needs to intellectually approve of. So too with our relationship with Hashem, yes, we have to have a level of our intellect that controls our emotions, and we're filling our intellect with godly ideas, and that directs our emotions in a proper way. But there's a much higher level to this, and this is the level of will, the level of keter. When we're able to tap our keter into Hashem's will, when we're able to make our will Hashem's will, then that automatically ignites the emotions. Whereas when you're dealing with intellect, you have to try to convince yourself to love Hashem. You have to try to convince yourself to ignite a fear of Hashem. And the emotions fight back, and the emotions need to be convinced. They need to be properly directed. But when you realize that you want Hashem already, and you just allow yourself to that part of you to shine through you, I want to serve Hashem. I want to love Hashem. I want to do the right thing. When you're able to connect to Hashem at the level of will, that it's what you want, nothing can stand in the way. Because we know very clearly in everyday experiences, when a person wants something, nobody can convince him. Through all the logic in the world, you can't convince him, because until he's going to, within himself, not want the certain thing anymore. When a person wants something hard enough, nothing can stand in the way. And we see that even when we surrender ourselves to Hashem, this is what the Rebbe Rashab says. When a person surrenders themselves to Hashem in a way of in a way of chokhmah bin adas, in a way of intellectually surrendering themselves to Hashem, it's great, but it's not infinite. It's still limited through his own reasoning. Yes, Hashem's great, and I'm smaller, therefore I'm going to surrender myself and try to connect. It's as great as these levels are, whatever it may be, it's still limited to one specific intellect, because we all have different levels of intellect, and we can only understand certain concepts at certain times, and we're all at different levels. Maybe this concept you don't understand it fully, so to speak, whatever it may be. But when a person is able to connect at the level of ratzon, will, then there's no difference between anybody, because at that level it's pure godly revelation. Then a person doesn't have to convince himself with logical reasons. It's not limited. When a person wants to connect to Hashem, that is beyond infinite. because then it's not contained by his intellect. Intellect is always trying to limit things. Understanding is all about grasping. What does it mean to grasp something? You have hold of it. You limit it through yourself. But when you want something, it's not limited by your own understanding. That's why a person could want something and he may not even understand why he wants it. He just knows that he wants it. And he feels it as well. Therefore, when we're able to want to make Hashem our king, nothing will stand in the way. And how a person say, how could you ignite a will? How could you convince yourself to want something? The answer is you don't have to convince yourself. You already deep down fully want to serve Hashem. You just have to remind yourself and to allow yourself to recognize and to dwell on the fact that you want to serve Hashem. And when you intellectually realize that deep down you already want to serve Hashem in this infinite way, then the intellect will also be will be surrendered to your will, and so to your emotions, and it will flow right through to your emotions and then down into the actions. The lowest part of our conscious living being is action. Action is the lowest thing. There's much less revelation of the person in a simple action than when he speaks, or when he thinks, or when he talks, or when he sings, whatever it may be. But action is what the mitzvah needs to be done through action. So when we're able to surrender ourselves to Hashem's will and we go right to the action, I'm doing this because Hashem told me to do it, not because I understand, not because I feel good, because Hashem wants me to do it, then boom, you skip the whole calculations and you go right to serving Hashem. And then the Rebbe Rashab explains that then your emotions and your intellect will be elevated through that, and you'll come to even appreciate it through your intellect and emotions as well, and you'll feel it in your emotions, an excitement, ispalus, an activation of your emotions to serve Hashem, which will allow you to serve Hashem in a greater way. So this is a practice to every day. Think about how you want to make Hashem your king, and the very fact that you want to make Hashem your king, that will, the faculty that we have, our will, is our highest faculty, and that will be able to, without any restrictions, activate our love, fear of Hashem, and our acceptance of Him as our King, and to be able to perform the commandments and learn Torah and do acts of kindness in a way of surrendering ourselves to Hashem's will, which is the highest level. May Hashem bless you. May we merit to greet Mashiach today. May we live with these ideas.